Welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, April 9th, 2018. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. Supporters and well-wishers of the ruling Unity Labour Party, the ULP administration, came together on Sunday at the Calico playing fields to celebrate the party's 17 years in successive government. As we hear in this report by Sharon Garwe, it was not only a time to celebrate, but also to reflect on the party's achievements and challenges.
You want the championship belt? Tell him come great. And every time I punch him, I ask him what's my name. And him what's my name. One good term, it deserves another. Right there. What's my name? Which one you're rather? Calling all my sisters.
Tauntingly challenging opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday for the title of Prime Minister of this country, leader of the ruling Unity Labour Party, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, stood in confidence as he celebrated with his cabinet colleagues and party supporters 17 years in successive governance. The celebration rally, which took place at the Calico playing field on Sunday, April 8th, was punctuated with live entertainment.
If you wanna know a 5 to 15 years plan, sing the thing. Too far to turn back now. Oh yes, we can me on to victory. Too far to turn back now. I'm at the pitch. Hey, ready? Everybody, show me your red. Let me hot up the head now. Let me see you voting Labour. Everybody show 4 finger. If you're not red for the best man, wave your red rock for the red man. You start him already yet, just like they ever ready get.
The 17-year anniversary celebrations is a historic feat for the ULP, which is boasting of being the longest-serving political party in the Western Hemisphere.
A continuous run for 17 years thus far, making us the longest serving political party in government in the Western Hemisphere continuously.
Outlining that his party is based on the foundation of God and the upliftment of the people of SVG, as well as a philosophy of social democracy, PM Gonsalves noted that one of the main challenges and priorities is improving the lives of the poor.
We met 37% poverty in this country, meaning over 37,000 people were poor. But more terrible than that is that indigence, dirt poor poverty, was 25.7% of the population. In other words, you had about 26,000 people who are dirt poor. And we set about in the economy and we targeted specific measures to address those things. And by 2009, we had reduced the poverty to below 30%, and indigence, dirt poor poverty, had dropped from 25.7% of the population to 3.9% of the population.
Declaring his vision for the future, PM Gonsalves said that he and his party will continue to improve the economic standing of all Vincentians.
Each of those words is important. Modern, competitive, post-colonial, meaning we no longer have the benefit of any trade preferences and any kind of colonial links in the economy. It's modern, it's competitive, it's post-colonial.
Sharon Garwe reporting for SVG Television News.
Former leader and founding member of the Unity Labour Party, Sir Vincent Beach, told the gathering at Sunday's celebration rally that while the opposition New Democratic Party, the NDP, had many plans in the pipeline, it was the ruling Unity Labour Party, the ULP administration, that ensured many of these projects came to fruition. Sir Vincent described Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves as the best thing to happen to SVG.
There was a time in Labour where we weren't going anywhere. And I think to a certain extent there was a time in MNU where they weren't going anywhere. I
I think that the best thing that ever happened to this country is Ralph Gonsalves as Prime Minister. As a matter of fact, I shouldn't say I think, I know that this is so. But what I want you to remember, especially the younger ones, when we won in 2001, some of you were not even born. And most of us wouldn't know or understand or experience the problems that we had then. For instance, the electricity supply that we have now, we take for granted. If electricity goes off for a couple of hours, people started to complain. But those of us knew who lived then that sometimes you're never sure that you would get electricity for a whole day.
Several of the ministers and senators who addressed the gathering highlighted some of the successes of the ULP administration and expressed gratitude to PM Gonsalves for his leadership.
There are people who go to Parliament to say there is no confidence in government. But you have shown that there is confidence in this government. You have shown that this government has done enough for you, has worked in your interest. We have had much to celebrate. In my own ministry, we now have the Argyle International Airport and international flights are coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Low-income houses would have been made available to that constituency over the past 17 years. Many would have benefited from the Lives to Live program. And hundreds would have benefited from the material distribution program.
Very soon, we will reach over 1,000 acres of cocoa. And we're not only exporting beans, we're exporting chocolate too. We are in touching distance of 50 acres of coffee. We continue to export cattle from this country 4 and 5 times a year. And container loads of root crops continue to come from the hard work and toil of our people.
We do acknowledge the hard work of our longest serving Prime Minister to date. But by far, it is the contribution of you, the people, your support to this political party that reigns supreme.
We stand on this stage before you, the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and before the soldiers of the unstoppable Labour Army, to say one thing. Thank you.
Congratulating the ULP on its 17 years in governance was Vice President of the opposition New Democratic Party and Member of Parliament for Central Kingstown, St. Clair Leacock. Leacock pointed out that the time out of office was an opportunity for the NDP to do some internal planning to take governance.
To acknowledge the 17 years of political success of the Unity Labour Party. I acknowledge those 17 years. Well, take little and live long. Take little and live long. I acknowledge the 17 years, Mr. Speaker, in the same way that I am very conscious that those 17 years is what I call wilderness readiness for those of us who have had to mature our political life on this side of the fence and prepare ourselves for the eventuality.
The youth of SVG have been commended for seizing all opportunities to advance themselves academically and otherwise. This commendation came from Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves as he spoke at the recently held National Awards ceremony where successful students in the 2017 and 2018 CSEC and CAPE examinations were recognized for their achievements. PM Gonsalves said there are more opportunities available for advancement today, with this generation being more focused than his, and commended those who continue to do well.
And then You have hundreds upon hundreds at the University of the West Indies, other regional universities and across the world, preparing themselves well. You know, before my time, you could have counted the number on your fingers on your toes. So the opportunities have multiplied enormously, and you're taking advantage of them. And then you have 842 children, young people, in Pan Against Crime. You have, well, you had none before, but there was no such program. You have 1,200 in the Cadet Corps. It was 100 or so before, including our Marine Wing. I don't see any of them in before the Magistrate Court.
Dr. Gonsalves took the opportunity to praise the athletes who took part in the recently held Character Games, adding that today's youth have an extraordinary amount of potential for the future.
Look at Character Games. 4 young people with the gold medals in the 4x400. Look at from Byre Hill, deep country, Handel Roban, 800 meters champion. That's a special talent. So what are they telling me about them young people there? You are a generation with immense possibilities. It doesn't mean that you don't have limitations and weaknesses.
The Prime Minister further noted that whilst a few of the youth may become wayward, the accomplishments of those who achieve must be highlighted and celebrated.
And at the community college, in the aggregate, when I arrived, it was about 400 people, 400 students. You now have 2,000 in all divisions. And now and again you will see somebody infringing the law in a serious manner. But what about the thousands upon thousands who go about their business and do their work and do excellent in their sports and school work and their homes? And you don't hear people talking about that. They want to define us by the few who fall by the wayside, relatively few. Well, we have to try not to let them fall by the wayside. But you can't define the generation on that basis.
The Ministry of Education is seeking to reduce the dropout rate of students across schools in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's according to Minister of Education Sinclair Jimmy Prince, as he spoke at the recently held National Awards ceremony, which celebrated the academic achievements of Vincentian students. Minister Prince stated that many schools failed to reach benchmark in relation to numeracy and literacy, and spoke of a pilot program to be undertaken aimed at addressing these issues.
Ladies and gentlemen, anecdotal data indicates that multiple factors lead to these students' underachievement and their ultimate withdrawal from the school system. However, I would like to highlight a pilot program that is currently being implemented at 3 secondary schools and 3 of their feeder primary schools to assist struggling and at-risk students. We're not just going to leave it like that. We know there is a problem, we've identified it, and we're going to find a solution. We propose to establish a student support program for grade 4 students at 3 primary schools and grade 7 students at the selected secondary schools that would adequately address students' needs and deficits. Our ultimate goal is to improve the performance and reduce school dropout rate among these students, as the program will tackle the issues at both the secondary and its corresponding feeder primary schools. The remedial program is expected to be delivered by class teachers supported by a cadre of assistants recruited from the list of certified unemployed young teachers or from retired teachers.
The Education Minister also expressed concern over the level of ill discipline among students in schools and highlighted another project designed to tackle this issue.
We are working diligently to reduce the high level of ill discipline present in many of our schools today. And of course, you know what I'm talking about when we talk about ill discipline. And I noticed recently that every time this raises its head, people point their fingers at the Ministry of Education. We'll do our part, but of course, these students belong to all of us. They have parents, they have communities, and they have other influences on their character and how they look at life. And the Ministry of Education, maybe we take responsibility, but certainly, not in all cases, the blame. This initiative has helped to reduce the need for corporal punishment, and teachers are using more behavioral modification techniques and strategies to curtail disobedience and deviant behaviors in schools. The program has also helped to decrease the level of truancy among students in the participating schools. I encourage all school leaders to fully embrace the CFS policies in their respective schools. In other words, I'm asking all school leaders, principals, and their deputies, etc., to be more vigilant and to take control of their schools once again. And you don't have to do so with a strap or a stick. There are methods that you can use, and you know them because you're trained to use them.
Local police are seeking the assistance of the public in locating 2 persons for questioning in connection with a burglary at Old Montrose. The 2 are from Lomans Leeward. They are 32-year-old Barry Bertrand Hunt and 26-year-old Tashika Tashanta Hepburn. Persons with information as to the whereabouts of these 2 are asked to contact the Criminal Investigations Department at 456-1810 or the nearest police station. A new initiative in the processing and marketing of Vincentian arrowroot starch is expected to be undertaken here shortly in a joint arrangement by the local Arrowroot Association and the regional marketing company Winfresh and its subsidiary Vinci Fresh, with the full support of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This follows a recent meeting between representatives of the parties involved and the government held at the conference room of the Ministry of Housing under the chairmanship of Montgomery Daniel, Minister of Housing and Parliamentary Representative of the North Windward constituency, the major arrowroot producing region. According to a news release from a representative of Winfresh, Renwick Rose, the initial outcome of the discussions is a memorandum of understanding between the parties. Rose said the MOU sets out 2 stages for action. 1, an immediate action plan aimed at bringing the arrowroot processing plant and its products up to acceptable standards for export through the Winfresh channel. And 2, a medium to long-term plan where the parties would explore options for a joint venture between them to commercialize the operations of arrowroot industry of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Rose said the parties agree that this will require substantial investment to ensure that both the manufacturing plant itself and the arrowroot products meet the highest international food standards. The release further outlines that the new initiative is aimed at a significant upgrading of the local arrowroot industry, once a major export earner, but which has encountered difficulties in recent times. Some 15 persons involved or interested in agro-processing are benefiting from a trainer of trainer fruit drying course. This is the 3rd in a series of courses implemented under a South-South cooperation project through the government of Colombia. Over the next 5 days at the Center of Excellence and Vinci Fresh Processing Plant at the Diamond Estate, participants will learn more about the drying of various fruits, including mangoes and pineapples. Nikita Tony tells us more in this report.
Implemented through the Adult and Continuing Education Division in the Ministry of Education, with technical support from the Ministry of Agriculture, Phase 3 of a 4-component fruit drying project commenced here earlier today, Monday, April 9th. Conducted under the South-South Cooperation Project through the Government of Colombia, 15 persons drawn from the public and private sector, including instructors and processors, are involved in the training course, which will run until this Friday, April 13th. Speaking at the opening ceremony, Acting Director of the Division of Adult and Continuing Education, Kathleen Jeffers, outlined that the course falls in line with the mandate of her division.
Express our sincere appreciation to the government and people of Colombia for their generous support and especially to SINA for their cooperation. Already have certain skills which must be harnessed and developed so that they can experience success. We are confident that our participants in this training will learn some of the key concepts and skills in dealing with the natural resources and how to put systems in place for their success. Also, that they will share as they become trainers in the quest for development.
Jeffers further provided an overview of the 3 phases of the project which have been undertaken thus far.
The cocoa cultivation and harvesting course, which was conducted in Orange Hill from August 14 to the 17th, 2017. The second was the good manufacturing practice at Vinci Fresh from August 21st to 25th, 2017. And today, the fruit drying and cocoa processing course from the 9th to the 13th of April, which will culminate with an exhibition on Friday, the 13th April.
Academic Coordinator at the National Learning Service of Colombia, SINA Colombia, Oscar Helvez, pointed out that his government is pleased to be on board with the initiative.
Some of you were actually there in Colombia, in our center, and you saw the strengths that we have in some of the fruits and other greens and vegetables that we can do, especially in the transformation process of these.
Por eso para nosotros es un placer estar aquí y venir y traerles la tecnología que manejamos, traerles la experiencia que tenemos en el tema de frutas y poderlo replicar con todos ustedes.
So it is a pleasure for us to bring here any technology that we might have developed and all our experience in the topics of fruit drying process for you.
Speaking on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture, Colville King commended all partners for their efforts in carrying out the project.
Fruit markets is growing, and by 2022 there would be a demand for about 4.7 million tons of dried fruits. To participate in the global dried fruit markets, you must produce a product that is excellent and competitive. So we're going through a training course, but I am seeing beyond the training course in the sense that we expect you to pass on this knowledge, but also to actually commercialize products.
At the end of the 4 courses, a number of participants will be selected to travel to Colombia, where they will receive advanced training. The training is said to further enable them to extend on the skills acquired, which they are expected to share with other interested Vincentians and also start up their own business venture. Nikita Tony reporting for SVG-TV News.
Vincentians have been encouraged to read more in order to gain more knowledge. That's the encouragement coming from President of the SVG Bar Association and former Minister of Culture, Renee Batiste, as she spoke at a ceremony held today to launch Library Week 2018. Batiste said libraries still play a critical role in providing knowledge and stimulating intellect in a modern world, adding that libraries cannot be replaced by internet sources of information.
In today's world, it is essential that sound knowledge and confirmed sources be still the leading light and guiding lights towards that specific goal. It is not going to be replaced by Wikipedia. And access to the general broad knowledge and to be able to define the source of that knowledge still remains essential. More knowledge in every aspect of our lives and our work will also be a further stepping stone. We have to be able to reach that knowledge so that we can stimulate our intellect to permit us to rationalize and reason, to think, to act, to be productive, to be persuaded, to be fair, to be just, to be upright in our actions and deeds. The National Library is indeed unique and valuable in this particular prime context.
While applauding stakeholders for their work in supporting the National Archives and Documentation Center, but he's called on non-governmental organizations to lend their support to the National Library.
I'm aware of 2 such explorations, and I unashamedly make a plea here and now of all our national NGOs who are celebrating meaningful milestones this year. As I read their advertisements and look at the beautiful design logos for the milestones, to ask them to remember the library. And I humbly ask KCCU, which is celebrating Diamond Anniversary, if it is possible for them to donate 2 sets of outdoor seating for the library. And also the Teachers Credit Union, which is still celebrating their Ruby Anniversary, for similarly 2 sets of outdoor seating as well. I make this plea based on a humble suggestion. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and ye shall find. And it shall be open unto you.
Also speaking at today's ceremony was Director of National Libraries and Documentation Services, Michelle King Campbell, who said the library services remain committed to facilitating the access of knowledge to the Vincentian public, adding that the documentation services will be seeking to boost its capacity to preserve items of cultural significance.
As a result of an archival and records management workshop sponsored by UNESCO and facilitated by Dr. Stanley Griffin, Assistant Archivist at the UWI Mona, Jamaica. In order to continue with this development and to ensure the longevity of our archival holdings, preservation and conservation principles and procedures must be put in place. The department has therefore contacted the National Library and Information Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, NALIS, for assistance in assessing the holdings at the National Archives and determining what would be required to conduct a training workshop in preservation and conservation so that we can acquire the skill and so preserve and conserve our heritage. The department is also seeking assistance to purchase a microfilm reader which is needed at the National Archives to continue to provide access to historical records.
Library Week 2018 is being celebrated under the theme, Libraries Lead, a Stepping Stone to Success.